Hello everyone, this is Tom Fox and I'd like to welcome you to the Daily Compliance News. The Daily Compliance News is an offering of the Compliance Podcast Network. April 16th, 2019, the Integrity Edition. First up, an article in Inc.com where Warren Buffett says integrity is the most important trait in leadership and practicing 4 habits will increase yours. What are those 4 habits? Number 1, be accessible and communicate openly. 2, be your word. No doubt channeling his inner Chevy Chase of being the ball. Be better at managing tough situations and be truly who you are. When the sage of Omaha speaks, it's time to listen, and these are certainly lessons you should take to heart going forward. Next up, Loki Morell, asked in the New York University Compliance and Enforcement blog, what happened to one-stop shop enforcement under GDPR? At the time of the adoption of GDPR, the EU touted as a benefit companies would have one-stop shop enforcement, whereby in respect to controllers or processors with multiple establishments in the EU, the supervisory authority of the main establishment of such controller or processor in the EU would serve as the lead supervising authority. However, it turns out that is not quite true, and they now have multiple supervisory authorities. So this is going to be a difficult issue for companies going forward, and something that we will have to continue to watch. Dick Casson over at the FCPA Blog asks, Uber's grease payments and charitable giving what went wrong? Uber self-disclosed last week that there's a 2-year-old investigation in 5 countries around what it called, quote, small payments to police in Indonesia, end quote. However, as we know from various FCPA enforcement actions, one company's claim of facilitation payment may be the government's interpretation of a bribe. So it's going to be difficult, or rather, Uber has to justify these facilitation payments. It's unclear what record keeping they would have had in place and whether or not they were entitled for the benefits they received. But it's always a difficult action going forward to defend these. And finally, rather amazingly enough, the German prosecutors on Monday charged former VW CEO Martin Winterkorn with aggravated fraud for his role in the automaker's efforts to deceive regulators about its diesel exhaust levels. In announcing the criminal case against Winterkorn and 4 other VW managers, the public prosecutor offices linked the charges to events that ran from 2006, from when the deception initially occurred, to 2015. This is a pretty stunning announcement, given the rectitude the German prosecutors had shown for indicting corporate officials. Certainly they were embarrassed by the United States indictment of Winterkorn, and given the amount of, frankly, fraud and embarrassment to the company and fraud to the nations of the world engaged in by Winterkorn, this could be a serious problem for him going forward. As you may know, we've had several new offerings on the Compliance Podcast Network. One of those includes Popcorn and Compliance, where Jay Rosen and I take a look at compliance through the lens of movies, both current, contemporary movies, and classic movies. We recently premiered 2 new shows on the Compliance Podcast Network in modern medium. Paris Fox takes a look at how you go through the process of designing art and why it's so important for the compliance practitioner to utilize these skills in their communications with their employees. In Forensically Speaking, Jonathan Marks helps you understand the forensic side of compliance.